Oh, great, it's you. Fine, whatever, let's do this. Hey there guys, it's me Malorian and welcome back to another Malorian Weekly, and this one today is going to be all based on dealing with toxic players. It seems like every meta has at least one of them. You know, there's that one person who's like, oh, I just hope that they don't show up. Every single time we play, it is just awful. The bullshit that they bring up, if I just have to play them, I'm going to just walk away. Oh great, what do you know, turns out I'm matched up against them. Let's just go through this bullshit game, and then after, yeah, okay, now I'm done with this, I just want to go home. So there's kind of like a little taste of what it seems like I keep on hearing from different areas, and we're going to be really talking about today about really the different types of toxic players, and then probably what's the best way to actually be dealing with them. Now, I think the very first thing we need to be starting with when we're talking about this, and I'm having to do air quotes, well, I guess not full of air quotes because I'm in the video here, but toxic players. And I think the real thing there to take away is that, you know, what's the real idea of toxic? This is something that's hurting you. This is something that's bringing up a negative effect. So to me, in this video, what I'm going to be calling a toxic player is someone who is having a negative effect on the community. The fact that they are in the community is hurting the community of whether it's War Machine, whatever the game is. So that's how I'm going to be actually defining it. Now, if that's the case, I said there's different types of toxic players. So what are these different types? Well, you know, we're talking about War Machine, we're talking about a hobby. So maybe this is a person that's super ultra competitive. Maybe it's someone that's the other way, where they're just super casual and like aggressively casual, where if you don't want to go and play a campaign, you're just a bullshit, you know, player that doesn't care about fun, and they're always pushing the fun side, and that's toxic to you. Or maybe it's someone that just doesn't care about their models. They come in, their models are all in shambles, you can't even tell what's what, they're always using different proxies. Or maybe again it's the other way, someone that is always pushing the painting. They're the one good painter in the group, and they're always holding up their nose to everybody else. Or maybe it's something to do with gameplay. Maybe it's something where this person here is always playing very sloppy. They're always pushing things a little bit farther. They're always seemingly cheating because they're always getting things wrong. Or maybe it's the other way, and they're always just super tight. Every little thing has to be done exactly perfectly. And if you're not using, you know, basically a caliper to be figuring out how far you should move and declaring everything and a token for everything, well, then that's the same thing, right? So I think the big thing to take away from all these things here is that these things are really all hobby related, and at the same time, when we're looking at them, there's something where, depending who you are, these are all on a scale. And so I'm sure all these toxic players, there's some people that will say like that person is toxic, whereas on the other side there's other people like, well no, I actually enjoy playing that person. Now there's going to be also toxic in a different way. So that's like the hobby side. But on the other side, we have to really address that there's also like the social toxic people. The people that will come into a game room, and if there's any females there, they're talking down to them. Or maybe they're being aggressively like trying to date them when it's really a gaming. Or it could be going the other way too, where it's a female doing that to males, right? Or it's maybe something where whenever they're coming in, they're bringing up racist remarks, or they're doing whatever. Maybe they're being physically aggressive, and they're coming in and they're throwing things at you or whatever. But I think we have to really remember that there's two different sides to this, in that there really is a very different scale in the way that you need to handle with them. And the thing is, between the people that I'm going to call hobby toxic, or the people that we'll consider social toxic, that they're very different. And yet when you go and you talk to different people and you ask them, do you have a toxic person in your meta? They'll be like, yep, there's this person and this person. But when you ask them, I would say the vast majority fall within that hobby side of it, where it's really something to do with the hobby that they're taking as toxic. Now, let's talk about those people first. Now, if there's someone in there that is hobby toxic, well, we have to remember that we already kind of talked about that each of these things seem to be on scales, right? That some people liked it and some people don't like it. And so one of the things you might want to first be thinking about is this the whole idea that, maybe what you consider to be toxic is not inherently evil, right? The person coming in and wanting to have that really competitive game is not doing that because they're just deep down inside, they have a black heart and they're evil. Maybe they just like the spirit of competition. Maybe they got into this game because I want to be seeing if I can beat others. I always love doing that in video games and board games. Hey, let's try and do this in this tabletop game. But the same thing the other way, right? Maybe this casual person that is, so casual that if you try and do anything that's not beer and pretzels and silliness randomness, that they're coming out at you and saying like, no, you're doing it wrong, I don't like those competitive people. Well, again, maybe they're not doing that because they're evil and trying to bring things down. Maybe they're doing that because they have other reasons, like they just really enjoy having that fun. Or maybe that they went the other side where they saw somebody that was being so competitive that when they came into this game and they were wanting to have an experience being like, I want to have fun, I have fun doing fun things. Why can't War Machine be fun? Boy, this competitive person is really taking away my fun. Then now, whenever they see those people and how their ideology is different than theirs, that's toxic. And we have to stop this. We have to scrub this out. And I think that's something that's really important to remember, that these are really just two sides of the hobby where neither side is really wrong. And really, the more that they deal with the extremes from the other sides, the more negative they're going to be towards those people, which is something that's really unfortunate because we've already said that what they're doing is not inherently wrong, and yet that negative feeling can fester and it can get stronger and stronger and stronger. And eventually, the thing that becomes more toxic is not really what they're doing, but it's going to be that increasingly competition between those two extremes in the way that they're dealing with each other. If you have the one person that's coming into a tournament and they're coming into there because they want that super clean game and they want everything to be ultra precise, and there's the other person that's just super loose and just likes, hey, let's just push things and see what happens. The problem is that when they're walking in, none of these people walking into the tournament are really going in there at doing anything wrong. And yet, if they get matched up on a table, watch things fly, as all of a sudden they'll see each other and be like, oh great, it's you. Yeah, it's sure, let's have this bullshit game. Yeah, sure, yeah. I'll use your stupid precision sticks, whatever. Is this good enough for you? Is this good enough for you? And on the other side, oh, look at you. There's the cheater again, always not caring about what they're doing. Or sorry, not caring, always trying to sneak things past me. And then all of a sudden, that the feelings in that game escalate. They start talking to other people. The whole negative feeling starts growing up. And that's really what's the toxic part now, isn't it? It's that's really going to be toxic to the community. The fact that these two extremes that are just part of the regular hobby are now fighting against each other, and that's escalating to a point that is affecting more and more of the community. So I think that's really important to understand. I think if that's something where if you can go into a tournament and realize this person is in here because they like this, you can play that game accordingly. So it's really just changing your mindset and going into a game and saying, this is not going to be a negative experience because this player wants a very, very ultra clean-cut game. I just need to realize that the person across the table enjoys the ultra precise part of the game. So I need to remember that in this game, I'm going to try and be more precise. Or maybe it's the other way, right? Where this person really likes talking, right? So when I go into this, I should be prepared that this is a very social person that likes to chat through the game. There's nothing wrong with that. I just need to set my personal expectations going into the game and be handling with this because I know this is their preferences. Or the other way, they don't like talking at all. So you know what? I know this person doesn't like going to talk, so I'm not going to do that. Now, I think we can dive down into this even deeper and realize that not only is this like a preference inside that one person, but the way that people are dealing with things could just be a result and a reflection of how their life is going. Again, we are not simple creatures. The person that's walking into that tournament and you're playing against in that game is not just your opponent. They're a person and they have a whole life that's going on behind them. So if they're coming in and they're really pushing this, or they seem to be really aggressive or really on edge, well, maybe let's look at the tournament. Maybe just the last game or the last couple of games, they had a really negative experience and now they're just in a bad mood. Or maybe in the last game, they had that thing where, really precise versus not precise, and now they're bringing that baggage to the next game. Again, with that toxicity kind of expanding from that then, and then that's why they're bringing it to the table. And then maybe can bring that up and like, hey, did your last game not go so well? What happened? That's actually something I like doing in my games, is asking how they did so far. Not so much so I can dig into it tactically, just be like, how's it going, bud? Are you feeling okay? What's going on? And if you say things like, oh yeah, this person did this and this and really pissed me off, great, I'm going to make sure that doesn't happen in this game. Again, we're a person past even the tournament though, so maybe they're just having a hard time at home. Maybe they're having a fight with their significant other, maybe they're having troubles with their kids, maybe they're having troubles financially, maybe they have worries and anxiety about the world and life, maybe there's issues with work, maybe it's just like everyone, we have issues. We have our fridge isn't working and I think all of our meat's gonna go rotten and I really want to do this, but I have to go to this stupid party and now I really want to go to this tournament, but I had to cash in, and give up all these things. And, all these things here could be coming in. And so whereas you might be thinking this one game, this is a toxic person, we have to also realize and have the empathy with that person to realize that they're a whole person outside of this and not just this evil opponent from the other side. And so I think that's a big thing, that if we can take that on ourselves and really just say that for this person that I'm deeming toxic, if I really dig down into it, it's something on the hobby side that really isn't toxic. It's the way that I deal with it and escalate it. And so if I deal with it in a different way and first understand that you have different preferences, and then also understand that you might have an elevated sense of whatever this is because of whatever else is going on in your life, I can now be empathetic to you and really work this into the game. Now, I think there's one more thing I need to cover before we go to the other side, and that's going to be really the fact that it could just be a simple thing of immaturity. So when I'm talking about that person that's being whatever extreme it is because that's their preference and they're having a bad day, you might also deal with the very rare case that you're just dealing with an immature person such that maybe they get joy from the fact that you're suffering, right? They're a person that is like the classic younger brother that wants to, every single time they're playing a game with their older sister, wants to just go at them, and the worst time that sister has, the better time they're having. Now, that is, to begin with, very rare. Whenever I'm looking at communities now, we're not full of really young players, really immature players. Usually War Machine is the more mature crowd to be able to deal with these complex rules, but it could be happening, so it could be a small percentage out there. And I think even then, even when you're dealing with that, well, you just, again, have to keep that in mind with your perception, that the person that you're dealing with is just immature. And I mean, that doesn't make them wrong. We were all immature at one time, by definition, we mature as time goes on. And so this is where a person like, okay, we're dealing with the younger brother. We're going to have to go through that game. They're going to try and pick at me just because that's the way that they try and get enjoyment. And I'm not going to fall for that, right? I'm not going to let that really affect me. Again, that's something where I can be like, oh, I got to go against this stupid kid again. And they're going to always push this. And they're going to be trying to ask all these questions just to get on my nerves. And then just realize they're like, no, I'm playing against this new player. It's all right. They're going to act like a new player. That's not going to bother me because I'm the mature one, and we're going to get through this game because it's my duty as the mature player to take us through that. And all of a sudden, like, this is just, as you're looking at this is a completely different conversation than we started the video. In the start of the video, it's like, oh my God, is this person, they're so toxic, this is so awful. And now we're at a point where we're talking about the understanding behind it. What's the root cause behind their actions? And really try to understand that their actions aren't evil, and at the same time as well, that we, in the way that we deal with them, can really contain it to this game, and not really even contain it, just make it so that this game is enjoyable, and that really the toxicity is the way if we let it bubble up and spill out to the rest of the community. That's the hobby side. So that's the hobby side. I think that's very clear cut, and I think it's also the 90+% of the situations out there. Let's talk about the social side. So the social side is a reminder, because we're already like 16 minutes into this video, it was the side where it's like social norms are being broken, not so much hobby norms, if you want to be calling it that. These are the people that they're coming in and they're being sexist, they're being racist, they're being violent, they're just doing something where it doesn't matter if you're in a hobby, if you're in a mall, if you're in the streets, the actions that they're doing there would be still seen as toxic to the mass majority of the population there. And again, this is something where, depending where you live, these are going to change. Social norms are different depending where you are. So the social norms here in Canada might be different than the social norms in wherever else. However, there's probably a lot of ones that a lot of people agree on, but that's where we get into these ideologies and in society. And this gets a lot tougher. I don't want to get into any examples because I know these ones are always super hot topic, but I would say that my way of dealing with them is very, very different. Now, for starters, the way that I like dealing with these social toxic people, if we want to be putting it there, is, you can still lean on that empathy and kind of realizing that these people are coming from somewhere else. Maybe they came from a broken family. Maybe they're poor and struggling. Maybe whatever. There's something that's in the root cause that's bringing it up. However, whereas before, these things bring it up, and now you're something on the hobby side is something that's, a lot easier to show empathy with and to accept. On the other side, you can't really accept it, right? If the norm around you, and maybe I'll go with the easy one of sexism or racism, and they're coming in, and it's one thing to be like, oh yeah, here's a person that wants to be super precise or super casual. Okay, I'll let that go, and we'll just deal with that this game. If there's the other side that are coming in, is like, oh well, there's the sexist person. Guess we're gonna make sexist jokes. Oh, it's the racist person. We're gonna go and talk about being racist. That's not what you want at all. There's social norms for a reason. And I can't really say that that's really still like evil at the core, but it's not the way you want to go. So you have to go the other way. So I think the very first thing I try and do is I always try and keep the social and the hobby part of my life completely separate. So whenever people want to be, if I know there's someone that likes to really talk about whatever issue and it's hobby time, I just don't even bring that up. I make sure it's not even a topic to be coming up. So don't instigate that trouble is what I'm really saying. The second step is that if it comes up, you're going to have to address it somehow. So if it does come up where they're being racist, sexist, whatever else it is, you're going to have to bring it up. And you might have to bring it up in a way like, hey man, that's really not okay. I'm really here to play this game. Can we just not talk about that or not deal with that in this game? And that might be a simple thing there, right? If they start seeing that they're something that they're doing against social norms is really bothering people, they might stop. And that's great, right? That's fantastic. But they might even go further. And if they're going further, you'll just have to escalate as required. This is the type of thing where, if there's a person that's coming in and they always want to be super competitive or super casual, you don't go and talk to the store owner and say, like, you might want to ban this person. Whereas if it's on the other side and it's like, look, this person is super sexist, super racist, super violent, whatever it is against the social norms, now that's where you might need to actually escalate that to the store owner. And who knows, you might have to actually escalate it even higher. So I want you to really realize that these are different, because I think a lot of times people take that one side, like how you'd be looking at those extremes for the people that are toxic for the social side, and really kind of apply that same reasoning and the same way of dealing with it to those on the hobby side. And we have to remember those are very different and they need to be handled with in very different ways. So there you go. Those are the different toxic people you might have in your community. Again, I hope that you live in a perfect community that has none of these people in your meta. If you do, I'm kind of sure that they're on the hobby side. And if they are on the hobby side, please have that empathy and dealing with it in that way of just kind of like realizing who they are, knowing that they're a person, not just an opponent, and then knowing that the real toxicity is it bubbling over. And then if you are in that very, very unfortunate smaller spot where it turns out you have someone that's toxic in that social side, try and keep that separation between hobby life and social life. And then if it does keep on creeping its way in, you got to deal with it, just like if it happened at work or anywhere else. So there you go. Thanks for watching. We're going to be doing one more video after this talking about, are you toxic? Because it's really easy to be looking out, but sometimes you got to be looking in. And then we'll be moving on to more caster reviews. So there you go. I really hope that you enjoyed this video. If you have any comments on it, post it down below. And otherwise, we'll catch you later. Bye.